Hello and welcome to this video tutorial on how to use AGS's Stakeholder Engagement and Management module. If you're watching this tutorial in several videos, this is the 7th video in our series of how to use AGS's OCM ERP tool for change planning and management. Today, I will be providing you with a step-by-step introduction and an overview of how to use the Stakeholder Management module of the tool. Most AGS products are Excel-based, which was a strategic decision because most people are familiar with Excel. When you open the Stakeholder Engagement and Management module for the first time, you will land on the home page. After that, whenever you open the module, you will land on the page that was last opened before the module was closed. For today's tutorial, we will start with the overview of the module's home page. On the left of the Organizational Stake Management module's home page will be the Template Database button. Clicking on this button will take you to the template database where you will input key information about your stakeholders. Later on, as part of today's presentation, I will provide you with a detailed overview of the template database. The red button in the middle of the Business Change Stakeholder module's homepage is the Analytics Dashboard button. Clicking on this button will take you to the Analytics page. During today's presentation, I will also provide you with a detailed overview of the Analytics Dashboard page. The top yellow button is the Stakeholder Assessment Overview button. Clicking on this will take you to a page with more information on stakeholder assessment. The second yellow button is the Stakeholder Management Overview. Which takes you to an overview of the stakeholder management process. At the very top of the homepage is a link that will take you to the main dashboard of the OCM ERP tool, where you can access all modules and templates within the tool, including this one. To the right section of the homepage, you will see the menu column. The first item on the column is the Read This First link. Clicking on this link will take you to a page within the module that includes some pieces of highlighted information. The second item on the Stakeholder Management module's menu column is the link to the Instruction and Tutorials page. Clicking on the third link that takes you to AGS's products page of our website, where you can find other popular and frequently used change management and project management tools, templates and samples. The fourth link on the menu column takes you to the Passwords page, where you can access the password to unlock and relock pages within the module. The next link is a Single-Use License page, which provides details on the licensing rights you have for using this module. Purchasing this module or tool involves a single user right of usage, and so giving this module or tool to multiple people to use is not permitted. Additional versions of this module or tool need to be purchased for other users. If you have any questions while using this module, all you have to do is click the Questions Click to Contact AGS link on the menu column to easily draft a message to the AGS support team. The next items I would like to go over on the Change Stakeholder module's menu column are the Sample Data buttons. While using this module, you can always view sample data for both the template database and the Analytics Dashboard. The sample data helps give you an idea of how you can enter your own data. Clicking on any of these two blue buttons that we are looking at here will take you to either of the sample data pages. We will discuss these two pages in detail later on as part of this tutorial. And that covers the high-level overview of the menu column on the module's home page. Next, let us review the Stakeholder Management module's template data page. To open the page, I'm going to click the button which will take us to the database. When you initially open the module for the first time after purchasing it, the template database will be blank because nothing has been entered into it yet. But to illustrate what the Organizational Stakeholder Management module's template database will look like as you start entering information, we have added a template database with sample data to the module. You can access this template with sample data in two ways. Click the Template with Sample Data button at the top of the template database, or on the homepage of the Organizational Stakeholder Management module, click on the blue Template Database with Sample Data button on the menu column to view the sample database. I'm going to click the button that says Template with Sample Data. The first thing I'd like to mention as we review the Change Stakeholder module's template database and the provided sample data is that the sample data on this page is just dummy data that has been included here for illustration purposes only. You can return to the main template database to enter data anytime by clicking the Template Database tab at the top of the sample data page. Two helpful tabs that are included on both the blank template database and the sample data page are the Home tab, which takes you out to the main page of the module, and the Main Dashboard tab that will take you to the main dashboard of the OCM ERP tool. You'll see these two tabs throughout the pages in each module of the end-to-end OCM ERP tool. Just remember that Home takes you to the individual module's home page, and Main Dashboard takes you out to the main tool where you can access all modules. The first column on the Organizational Stakeholder Management template database is the Unique ID column. This column auto-populates with unique identifiers when you enter information about the stakeholder, such as name, job title, etc. These unique identifiers allow you to easily make reference to a particular stakeholder or row on the database. The second column is the Type of Stakeholder column. Use this column to document the type of stakeholder that an individual is. This column includes a drop-down menu that you can select from. The options include Stakeholder, Critical Stakeholder, Executive Sponsor, Change Agent, Steerco member, short for Steering Committee member, or Other. You also see a TBD or To Be Determined option if you're not quite sure what type of stakeholder a person is yet. Let's quickly go through some of the key stakeholder definitions. A stakeholder includes any individual or manager of a group likely to be impacted positively or negatively by a project, a program, a business change, a system implementation, or a business transformational initiative. Stakeholders have the ability to block the change initiative directly or indirectly, influence the thinking or actions of other project stakeholders, and are in the position to support or oppose change related to a business initiative. A critical stakeholder plays an additional role beyond a stakeholder. As part of your assessment, determine which stakeholders are required to play an advocating role for their respective business units and organizations in order for the project to succeed. They may or may not be sponsors at this point in time. These stakeholders will be your critical stakeholders. They need to be engaged to get their buy-in and support of the program. Critical stakeholders help legitimize a change initiative in the eyes of their employees and direct reports by showing their support. Their buy-in is vital to the change, and they must maintain visible commitment. Executive sponsors include the senior executives or primary sponsors, who make the key decisions about the program scope, objectives, and approaches. Executive sponsors champion the initiative and can get buy-in from other executive level stakeholders. A change agent, sometimes referred as a change champion, is any individual who is part of a group that will be impacted by a change and who is willing to engage their colleagues to increase awareness, acceptance, and adoption of the change. Change agents and change champions play a key role in the transformational change because they are able to facilitate change at an individual level within the organizations. For example, a change agent may be the most senior employee of your HR department that others in their department respect and go to for advice. Now let's look at the next 5 columns on the database page. Use these to capture basic information about each individual stakeholder, including stakeholder's first name, stakeholder's last name, job title, email address, and phone number. It's okay to leave out phone number if your organization mostly communicates via email. Now let's take a look at the next three columns. Use these organizational columns, division, department, and group, to capture the organizational details of the stakeholder. This is a very important task, as stakeholders are generally classified based on the organization, department, and group they represent. These columns use a drop-down that is populated from the data you enter on the Unique List of Orgs page. Watch video number 1 in this OCM ERP tool end-to-end video tutorial for a review of that page. Depending on how your company is structured, you might not need to use all three organizational columns. For example, if your firm's organizational structure only includes divisions or departments, then that's all you would need to enter. The next batch of columns can be used to capture the stakeholder's geographic location, including city, state, postal code, and geographical area or country, which is good information to know. For example, if a stakeholder is based in Australia and you are based in the US, then you will not want to schedule a meeting at the time that is inconvenient for the stakeholder. Depending on the scale and scope of the project, and also depending on the global structure of your firm, you might choose to ignore these columns if you're not pertinent to your organization. The next three columns, which are the current state, desired state, and ability to impact columns, are very critical columns that need to be populated. Use the current state column to flag the stakeholder's existing state towards the project. Is the stakeholder receptive and supportive or resistant to the project? The column has a drop-down menu you can select from, and it includes the following options: yet to assess this person, awareness about the change, support low, support mid, support high, resistance low, resistance mid, resistance high, or TBD, or to be determined. So let's go over the definitions of those designations to give you a bit more background that will help you in evaluating each stakeholder for their current stake. The yet to assess this person option is used if contact has not been made with the person yet and the assessment hasn't started. If you've started the assessment but haven't yet completed the assessment, you can use the TBD, or to be determined option. Use the awareness about the change option if the individual is aware of the change but they haven't yet been assessed as to their support level. Support low means the individual knows about the project and is somewhat receptive to the program, but might have some reservations which need to be addressed before they are completely on board. Support mid means the individual knows about the project, understands the business value that will be deliverables, and is somewhat supportive of the program. Support high designates an individual that knows about the project, understands the business value that will be the deliverables, and is fully supportive of the program. Resistance low means the individual knows about the project and is somewhat resistant to the program. With just a minor level of engagement, this person's resistance or concerns can be alleviated. Resistance mid is an individual that knows about the project and is moderately resistant to the program. Additional engagement will need to be developed and implemented to mitigate this person's resistance to the program. Resistance high means the individual knows about the project and is extremely resistant to the program. An extended level of planning and engagement will need to be developed and implemented to mitigate this person's resistance to the program. Now let's look at the desired state column. This is used to document where you need the stakeholder to move to in the future. In a perfect world, every stakeholder would end up in the support high level. But that's just not realistic or reasonable to expect that all stakeholders will move to the highest level of support. For some stakeholders, the best the project team can expect is to move the stakeholder from a high resisting current state to a low resisting future state. The drop-down options you'll see in the desired state column include yet to assess this person, awareness about the change, support low, support mid, support high, resistance low, resistance mid, resistance high, and TBD, or to be determined. Let's go over these definitions as they relate to the desired or future state column. Yet to assess means the assessment has not yet started. Awareness about the change means the awareness of the change is all that's needed for this stakeholder. Using support low isn't ideal for the desired state, but if the individual started in one of the resistance states, then it's an improvement to move them to a support state. The support mid designation can be a desired future state for an individual with low support for the project, or who is resisting the project. Support high is your gold standard. Where possible, a high supporting state should be where we want to move stakeholders to. This, however, will be in a perfect world. In a realistic world, it is not always feasible to move a stakeholder to this level. Resistance low can be a desired state for an individual who currently has an extremely high or mid-level resistance to the change, for which there is little to no possibility of moving them to a supporting state. Eventually, the goal is to gradually move the individual to a level wherein they are able to be supportive of the program. Resistance mid can be a desired state for an individual with an extremely high resistance to the change, for which there is little to no possibility at the interim of moving them to a supporting or low resisting state. Eventually, the goal is to move the individual to a much lower level of resistance. Resistance high is not an ideal level for a desired future state that we want a stakeholder to be in. The goal is to move the individual to a much lower level of resistance. Now, let's take a look at the ability to impact column. Use the ability to impact column to flag each stakeholder's ability to impact the project. Stakeholders with a high level ability to impact the project and who are also resistant to the project will require an extended level of engagement. For these individuals, you'll need to involve the program sponsors and other key leaders to help engage with this person to reduce their resistance. From the drop-down, you'll be able to select from the following options. High, for a considerable ability to impact the project. Mid, for an ability to impact the project but not considerable. Low, for the ability to somewhat impact the project. And TBD, or to be determined. As an example, a high-level department manager that can cause your project timeline to be significantly or indefinitely extended would have a high ability to impact your project, while an employee that is a team leader that others follow may have a low ability to impact your project, being that they couldn't change the timeline, but they can impact attitudes of other stakeholders for resistance or support. The next column we're going to review is the OCM competence column. OCM stands for Organizational Change Management. It is important to identify and document the change management experience level of the stakeholders. This needs to be performed in order to find out which stakeholders need training, coaching, or additional support to be good sponsors for the change. For primary, critical, or secondary stakeholders that you've identified as needing coaching and change management support, you should prepare and provide them with the necessary level of coaching and education to support them in their role as change agents for the program. Oftentimes, key stakeholders have little to no experience with effective change management practices. To be effective sponsors, they need to understand how vital they are to the success of the change initiative, including their role in helping with communications, resistance management, engagement, and reinforcing the change. You need to assess each stakeholder or sponsor's change management competency and then develop plans as needed to coach sponsors with low competencies. In this column, you'll be using the high, mid, low, and TBD or to be determined designators. The next two columns, the engagement approach and the stakeholder relationship owners column, can be used to document how you will engage with the stakeholder. Will you meet him or her weekly, bi-weekly? What is important to them? What concerns need to be addressed? And who will be responsible for managing this stakeholder? If a stakeholder is resisting the change, what will be the engagement approach? Use these columns to answer those questions. The next batch of columns are the resistance level columns. This batch of columns include the current issues resistance, what needs to be done to resolve these issues, point of contact to help mitigate stakeholder resistance, and the date resistance mitigated columns. These columns can be used to capture resistance level information. Use the current issues resistance column to detail any concerns the stakeholder has about the change, or any identified resistance factors which might be impacting their level of support or engagement. These concerns and factors need to be addressed in order to mitigate the resistance. Use the What needs to be done to resolve these issues column to enter information on how the stakeholder's concerns or resisting factors will be addressed. What needs to be done to eliminate or reduce the concerning factors. Use the Point of contact to help mitigate stakeholders' resistance column to enter the name of the individuals that will be responsible for contacting and engaging with the stakeholder. Use the Date resistance mitigated column to document when the resistance was eventually mitigated. Use the next two columns, program name and project name, to capture project-related information. In some cases, there will be multiple projects and programs. You can identify which programs and projects a stakeholder is impacted by using these columns. Completing these columns is optional. Use the Other Program Project Information column for inputting any miscellaneous or additional notes. And that concludes the high-level overview of the Stakeholder template database. It is not mandatory to populate all of the columns shown on the template database, but it is highly recommended. Information from the Stakeholder template database will feed into the Analytics dashboard. This is what we're going to discuss next. To get to the Analytics dashboard of the Project Management and Stakeholders Management platform, just click the Home menu at the top left-hand side of this page to be taken back to the home page. When you get to the home page, click on the Analytics Dashboard button. When you initially open the Stakeholder Management module for the first time after purchasing it, the Analytics dashboard would be blank if nothing has been entered into the template database yet. However, as you start entering information into the template database, the respective charts, data, and metrics will start to show on the Analytics dashboard. At the top of the Analytics dashboard page is a Refresh Analytics button. Clicking this button ensures that any data that has just been entered into the template database is reflected by the Analytics dashboard. As a good rule of thumb, you want to click the Refresh Analytics button when opening this page and before reviewing your analytics. To illustrate what the Organizational Stakeholder Management module's Analytics dashboard will look like as you start populating your template database, we have included a sample Analytics dashboard to the module. You can access this template with sample data in two ways. Click the Dashboard with Sample Data button at the top of the Analytics dashboard, or on the home page of the Stakeholders Assessment module, click on the blue Analytics Dashboard with Sample Data button on the menu column. I'm going to click on the Dashboard with Sample Data button. Okay, so we are now looking at the Sample Analytics dashboard populated with our sample data. I want to point out the blue tab at the top of the page titled Analytics Dashboard. This tab takes you from the sample dashboard back to the Analytics dashboard for your data. The Analytics section that I would like to start with is the Total Number of Stakeholder Types section. This section provides a summarized number of the stakeholder types. To the right of the number of stakeholder types is the total number of stakeholders for your project or program. Below the total number of stakeholder types and number of stakeholders section will be the details list of the stakeholder types, as well as the count of stakeholders per each type. The next Analytics section provides you with a holistic pie chart view of the various stakeholder types, as well as the percentage of stakeholders per each type. In the example provided here, critical stakeholders make up 37% of the total stakeholder population. The next set of analytics views breaks the data down by the stakeholder receptiveness to the project and also by the stakeholders' resistance to the project. The top section presents the number of stakeholders that have a low, mid, or high level of support for the project. The table in the middle presents summarized information on the stakeholders that are resisting the change. In this example, 38 stakeholders have a low level of resistance, while 106 have been identified as having a high level of resistance to the change. The bottom table presents the number of stakeholders that are yet to be assessed and are in the to be determined status. Directly to the right of these tables is a bar chart that presents a holistic view of all stakeholders based on their receptiveness levels to the project, supporting or resisting the project. It offers a comprehensive way to see the levels of receptiveness to the change at a glance. The next analytic report is a pivot table view that shows the breakdown by ability to impact compared against their receptiveness to the project, either supporting or resisting. A stakeholder's ability to impact the project is an extremely important piece of data to know because stakeholders that have a high ability to negatively or positively impact the project need to be carefully engaged to gain their support and buy-in. If you have a situation whereby a stakeholder is resisting the project and also has a high ability to impact the project, then that stakeholder is in the position where they can derail the entire project. As such, your engagement plans for these types of stakeholders should include soliciting the help of the primary project sponsor and other key leaders to engage this person. Seeing these important pieces of data correlated helps you prioritize which stakeholders to plan engagement for first. The next section of the analytics dashboard provides a pie chart view of the change management competency. As mentioned earlier, it is important to identify and document the change management experience levels of the stakeholders. This needs to be performed in order to find out which stakeholders need training, coaching, or additional support to be good sponsors of the change. For stakeholders that you identified as needing coaching and change management support, you should prepare and provide them with the necessary level of coaching and education to support them in their role as change agents for the program. The section below the pie chart presents a tabular view of the change management experience. In this example, 140 stakeholders have a high level of change management experience. 112 have a mid-level, 164 have a low level of experience, and 66 are yet to be determined. Moving to the right, the next analytics table presents a view of the level of stakeholder support for the change per division. In the example being reviewed here, there are 9 identified stakeholders within the customer management division. Of those 9, 1 has a high level of resistance, 2 are yet to be assessed, 1 is a TBD, and 6 are supportive of the change. The final analytics table on our analytics dashboard is the level of support for the change per geographical region or country. This allows companies with changes impacting larger geographical areas to see where stakeholder support or resistance to the change is by country or region, so you can deploy assets to engage as needed. If ever you would like to see more views and more charts, click on this button here to contact the AGS team for a quote. Now we're going to take a look at the Stakeholder Assessment Overview page. I'll click on the Home Page tab at the top of the Analytics dashboard to go back to the module's home page. Then I'll click the yellow Stakeholder Assessment Overview button. This page has a link to a Stakeholders Assessment Overview. If you're new to assessment of stakeholders, this is a great place to begin. Next, we'll look at the last page of the module. We'll click the Home tab to go back to the Stakeholder module's homepage. Then, we'll click the yellow Stakeholder Management Overview button. This page has a link to a stakeholder management process overview. If you're new to stakeholder management, this is a great place to learn more about the process. And that covers the main areas and the infrastructure of the AGS Stakeholder Engagement and Management module. All of the information that I have provided today is documented in the instruction and tutorials page of the module. Just go to the home page by going to the top left side of the page, and in the menu column, click the Instructions and Tutorial. And you'll find the job aid for using this module. I hope this step-by-step video tutorial will be a great learning process for helping you understand how to use the Stakeholder Management module of the OCM ERP tool, as well as understanding the overall infrastructure of the module. If you have any questions or if you need additional features and capabilities to be developed for you, just send us an email and your question or request will be routed to the right contacts. Now, we're going to review the next module within the OCM ERP tool, which is the Resistance Management module. If you're watching this end-to-end OCM ERP tutorial in a series of separate videos, the video on the Resistance Management module is the next one to watch.